Hello everybody and welcome to day 5, I believe, I could be wrong about this, of mattober. Which is, if you haven't been keeping up, it's 1 month full of special edition of Matt Reviews. And it's pretty appropriate because right now on the television is George Romero.
Talking like The Walking Dead.
Well, good lord, what were we reviewing?
Creepshow.
Yeah, George Romero's Creepshow. Hold the DVD right. If you don't know what Creepshow is, you're clearly not a horror fan. Creepshow is a movie directed by George Romero, written by Stephen King, and it's an anthology film where it has 5 short stories, all 5 directed by George Romero. What are you doing? How you want to do this, mate? You want to break it down as a whole, or do it segment by segment?
Segment by segment.
All right. We got a car horn out here. It'll be alright. Should we start with the wraparound first, or go right into the first story?
The first story.
First story, alright. First up, I told him I do it a lot. The first story is Father's Day.
I was going to say Mother's Day.
Mother's Day. Father's Day, how would you describe it? It's kind of a zombie film.
Kind of.
Basically, you got a group of yuppies, is what I would describe them as. Preppy kind of people.
Okay.
Sitting around waiting for their aunt to show up. It's like 1 old lady and 3 young people, 2 brothers, 1 boyfriend. It's alright. And while they're waiting, the aunt goes to the grave of her father, who she murdered. And he comes back.
Wait, was that I don't know. Just keep on going.
And he comes back from the grave wanting his Father's Day cake. What do you think of the segment of that?
It's hilarious.
It's awesome.
And actually, because we had it up so loud, because at first we couldn't hear it, and then we had it up to like 72 maybe. Then when the hand pops out
of the grave. Everyone, I'm pretty sure everybody's seen Creepshow. I think we're all right, man.
The hand pops out of the grave and it goes poof, and it was so loud. I was like, "Oh God!"
Good special effects in this segment.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Tom Sweeney did an amazing job.
Yeah. I realized something weird about that segment. The Master of Zombies is making this.
There's a lot of zombies in Creepshow.
Yeah. The third, maybe.
Well, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah,
don't skip seconds. Don't get me all confused. I believe John Amplis, who was in 2 or 3 other George Romero flicks, he's in Martin, Dead and Dead, Night Riders, is actually Dead Nate. Yeah. I only ever had 1 problem with this segment. I think it's one of the best in the episode, and one of the best in the Creepshow series. Except for at the very end, when he pops out, and he's like, "It's Father's Day, and I've got my cake." That's cool. And the chick's like, "Oh!" And it goes like, he's like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
I was like, "What is that?"
God almighty!
So there's a crime being committed out there. It'll be alright. Yeah, so that's a good segment. I enjoy that one a lot.
Yeah, my favorite parts is when he
tears the chick's head, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Also the gravestone. He ain't even near it. It just starts moving.
Yeah.
Then,
the father, the guy, the Dead Nate, I believe Nate's his name. Dead Nate. He looks awesome. Moving on to the next one is the Lonesome Death of Jody Verrill.
This is probably my favorite.
Which Jody Verrill is played by none other than
Stephen King.
Yep.
One of my favorite writers.
He's okay. This one's basically about a hey. Alright, sorry about that, guys. I had to go lay this mic down. Lonesome Death of Jody Verrill is next, which stars Stephen King as this redneck.
This redneck kind of idiot retard guy.
Yeah, not very bright. Who a meteor lands next to his house, and he starts thinking about like, oh, this is gonna make me so much money. He keeps having those flashbacks with that same guy.
Yeah.
And then the meteor breaks,
Because he throws water on it.
And
He's
what's
like, oh, George Romero, you knucklehead, something like that. Lunkhead.
And what's he get on him, Matt?
What?
What's he get on him?
Meteor snit.
And he basically starts growing plants all over his body and all over his property, and it escalates into something we're not going to mention at the end of the movie in this segment. That'd be a big spoiler. We don't want to do that.
A big spoiler?
Yeah, at the very end of it, we don't want to do that. So what do you think about this segment, Matt?
This is my favorite segment. It's hilarious.
Yeah. I always heard Stephen King wasn't too happy with that segment because he felt he acted like an absolute just
goofball.
Yeah, like a... But I don't know. I thought it was really funny myself.
He didn't like the segment?
Well, I don't think he didn't like the segment. I think he didn't like the way George had him acting.
Oh,
you know, there's like,
George, girl, you lunkhead.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, you know, he's just running around.
His eyes.
He's all crazy looking. My favorite thing with this segment is I think they call him Eddie. I'm not sure what he is to, but he pops up. He's like, you're not going to get in that water, boy.
And he's like, what's most hilarious? I'm gonna go ahead and act this out. The bathtub.
Oh, when he's going to get in the water.
He's like,
it's a really funny segment that has a pretty dark ending, though. Which is, we didn't mention this yet. This is kind of inspired by the Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, EC comic books, and I think that segment the most captures EC.
Yeah.
Next up is Something to Tide You Over, starred Ted Danson and Leslie Nielsen. Which is just bizarre to say those two people's names in a horror movie. Which, this one always confused me. Because Leslie Nielsen is the bad guy, and he kidnaps Ted Danson and his girlfriend, I believe, who is Galen Ross from Dawn of the Dead.
I love that movie.
He bears them up to their neck, you know, like, on the beach, and lets the tide come in and wash them over. And then he's at his house, celebrating his win, and let's just say the dead come back and get their revenge.
I'm gonna go ahead.
But this always confused me, this segment. Why did he do it? Did I miss something?
Seriously. I was sitting there. Why did he kill his? Oh, sorry.
It's alright.
Kill his son-in-law, maybe?
I don't know. I never understood that segment.
They call him Uncle something. He just grabs them, puts them in a hole, and then they die. Why?
Yeah, that's the one. It always confused me. It is a good segment, though. It's fun.
Segment,
Leslie Nielsen does a great job. Galen Ross is in it for literally like maybe 5 seconds. And it comes with a famous line. I can hold my breath for a long time.
I can tell you what's better than that.
What?
Well, maybe you shouldn't be living here.
If you've never watched that video, look up Pierce Brosnan from the movie Taffin.
You should put a link in below.
That's amazing. It's amazing. It also has when the zombies show up. Like, you can hold your breath. They say it like 100 times.
Yeah, but you know what's weird? Some of the voices sound the same. The zombie, Dead Ned.
Yeah, they have that same gargle sound to them.
Yeah.
Then we move on to I think it's a lot of people's favorite, the crate.
Let me make sure real quick.
It's the crate. I know it is the crate. I've watched this movie. This was the first horror movie I ever watched, man. I think I should know.
Okay, you're right.
What is next? It's the crate, which is basically about these two college professors, I believe they are. And one day a janitor's looking around. He finds a crate underneath the stairs, and he calls. I believe his name is Dexter.
Dexter. There's 2 other Dexters.
And he comes, and when they open up a crate, there's this big beastly monster in it.
Looks like a monkey to me.
And at the same time, there's his friend named Harry, who has a wife named Wilma, or Billy.
Oh, Billy. How do you get from Wilma to Billy? Seriously.
I don't know, but she is played by Adrienne Barbeau.
Who is John Carpenter's ex-wife.
Yes, she is.
And George Romero's wife is in it.
And so Harry begins to plot a way to not only get rid of the beast and cover up all the dead bodies that this gorilla thing is eating, but
and kill her.
Yeah, exactly, and get rid of his wife, which leads to my favorite line. Just have to call you Billy, Wilma!
But no, what's my favorite part in this one? I laughed my head off. He said, "Oh, hey Billy!"
Yeah.
Shoots her.
They're at a party, and his wife is being real obnoxious, and all of a sudden he starts daydreaming, and he's like, "Hey Billy," and he shoots her in the head right at the party, and
let's get together, ready?
And everybody's just like, "Good shot, man." That's awesome. That's a great segment. More great special effects by Tom Savini.
Yeah, Tom Savini's a genius. And
then we move on to the last segment, which is probably my least favorite. Not of the whole series, but at least of the first Creepshow, Creepshow 1.
I like this one.
It's called "There's Something." They're Creeping Up on You, which I believe stars E.G. Marshall. I could be wrong about that. But he plays. Who does he play? What's his name? I said 100. Upson Pratt.
Yeah, Mr. Pratt.
Who is basically a germophobic, rich douchebag.
I knew you were going to say that.
This night, he bought out a company, and the man commits suicide. At the same time, there's a blackout, and there's bugs all in his house, and for some ungodly reason, the bugs kill him.
That's the whole thing.
That's the whole story. Yeah, I mean that's another one that's like, why does this happen? I don't understand.
But one of the most hilarious parts is where he kills the bugs. Damn bugs!
It actually has the guy, I can't remember his name, but he's in Dawn of the Dead. He's pretty much the first person you ever see in Dawn of the Dead. He's on television at the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah, Mr. Pratt.
Yeah, he plays the superintendent in
and he's like, Mr. Pratt.
I think he calls him a cracker or honky in that or something. It's really funny. He's like, yeah, honky or something like that. I can't remember, but it's really awesome. It's an okay segment. There's no bad segment in this one. That one's just not my
favorite.
Yeah. And the whole thing is held together by this wraparound story that has Tom Atkins, who's an abusive father, who throws the boy's
comic book.
And at the end of the movie, the little boy gets his revenge.
Does it ever say what kind of comic book it is? Does it
says Creepshow on it. But you can clearly tell by the way. But you can clearly tell by the way even the comic book is laid out that it's supposed to be a E.C. Tales from the Crypt style comic.
This was during when this was really popular.
No, not really. E.C. was like the 50s. Because they got a lot of trouble when they first came out. Like there was a big congressional hearing about E.C. comics and how vulgar and violent they were, and they were corrupting the youth of America.
Oh my god!
And that's what inspired George and Stephen King. They were big fans growing up of E.C. and they decided to. I remember hearing an interview. It may have been on deadpit.com with George Romero, where he said that originally Creepshow was going to be an anthology where each segment was going to be a different style of movie, like filmed in different ways. Like one would be 16:9, one would be full frame. Each one would have different editors. You know, he was going to do different style of movies.
Yeah.
And Stephen King was like, "No, let's do like an EC comic book thing."
And then he's like, "Oh, that's a good idea."
Yeah, that's how Creepshow came up. This was my very first horror film I ever watched.
Tried to watch
all the way through. I tried to watch Tales from the Crypt and Pumpkinhead as a kid, but they scared the piss out of me. I couldn't. But I sat through this whole movie, and this is the reason I'm a horror fan today. So I, of course, love this movie.
Yeah, I think this is one of the only movies that actually captured the feel of a comic book.
Yeah, it really, we was talking about it, like Scott Pilgrim does a great job of it and stuff like that. But I don't think any movie ever felt more like a comic book come to life than Creepshow.
Yeah, because in Scott Pilgrim, it has some of the feels.
Yeah, it's got onomatopoeias in it and stuff.
Yeah, but this one
feels like a comic book. Like whenever something's scary or something happens, it turns
red and blue. Woo-hoo!
Yeah, it has that music.
Oh, we better hurry. It's starting now.
Alright.
We got 2 minutes left.
We'll do 3 things real quick. 1, what's your favorite segment?
The Lonely Death of Jody Verrill.
Mine's Father's Day.
I like Father's Day too.
They're all good.
Yeah, they're all good, but my favorite's Jody Verrill.
Rank your segments real quick. 1 to 5. Top to bottom.
Okay. Father's Day, I'll give it a 4.5.
No. That's not what I mean. I mean,
oh, what?
I'll do it quick. Mine, number 1 is Father's Day. My second favorite's The Crate.
Oh, yeah.
3 would be Lonesome Death of Jody Verrill. Something That Tied You Over, and my least favorite's.
So how many segments are there? 5. Okay.
Number 1.
Number 1 is Jody Verrill. Father's Day. What Tied You Over. I meant The Crate. Then What Tied You Over. And They Creep Up on You.
They Creep Up on You. Alright, and finally, what do you give this movie?
The whole movie?
Yeah. Out of 5.
4.5.
I would give it a 4.5 because I'm not a big fan of the last segment, but just for pure nostalgia the fact that this was the reason I'm a horror fan, I'm going to give it a 5. And one day I'm going to have this on Blu-ray because I heard the Blu-ray looks pretty good. So, that's Creepshow. I'm John.
I'm Matt.
And see you all Friday or Monday. I can't keep up anymore. See y'all.